Dharni, you can start now.
Okay, sir. Good evening to one and all present here for the IEEE Youth International Talk Series, Day 2. I am Dharni V, IEEE Student Chairperson of Women in Engineering Society and a member of IEEE Robotics and Automation Society from the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. On behalf of St. Joseph Institute of Technology, I'm here to volunteer for today's session. Now, I would like to extend my first and foremost gratitude to our Honorable Chairman, Sir Dr. B. Babu Manoharan, our Managing Director, Ma'am, Mrs. B. Jessie Priya, our Director, Sir Mr. Sashi Sekhar, and our beloved Principal, Dr. P. Ravichandran, Sir, for giving us this opportunity to conduct this series. I would like to extend my gratitude to our head of the department, Dr. C. Gnana Kausalya ma'am, staff and student affairs, and Dr. G. Rohini ma'am, lab affairs, for their ceaseless support. And now we welcome our youth speaker for today, who is Ms. Ashley Weckworth, the Senior Instrumentation and Controls Engineer for Burns and McDonald's in Kansas City, USA, and an executive board member of the International Society of Automation, ISA. So before we start the session, I have a few instructions for the participants. Kindly post your questions in the chat box, and there would be a question and answer session at the end of the series. The attendance will be posted at the end of today's series. So now I invite our guest speaker to please start the session. Ma'am?
All right, thank you. I appreciate that introduction, and I just want to also say thank you for allowing me to be here today to speak to all of you. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and so it is a little different speaking to a webinar versus in person. So I'm talking to an empty room, but I know there's lots of you out there. So I'm just so thankful for all of you joining in today, and I just hope we have a good session. So as mentioned, we're going to be talking about maintaining enthusiasm for engineering. And so you heard a little bit about me, but I figured I'd go back and talk a little bit more specifics about me and how I got into engineering and where I stand today, just so you have a background to know why I'm talking about this subject and why I'm so passionate about being enthusiastic for engineering. So let's get started here. So a little bit about me. I did go to Kansas State University. It's in the United States, in the state of Kansas, and I got my bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. So after I received my bachelor's in chemical engineering in 2012, I then went on to be at Burns and McDonnell, which is what you heard in my introduction. At my university, since you all are students, I thought this was important, is I actually was what we call here a resident assistant. And a resident assistant actually lives on one of the dorm room or the resident hall floors of a building at the college. And at the college, I lived on a floor that was made up of over 100 engineering students. So it was the engineering floor. I was in charge of helping those engineering students. I was still an engineering student myself, but I got paid to live and work there to kind of help navigate new freshmen coming in as engineers and just help them really enjoy the college experience. So I got exposed to a lot of different engineers early on in my education, and that kind of carried over into working for an engineering firm, because now we have all types of engineers as well. I actually married a mechanical engineer. We met in college, and so we got married 3 weeks after we graduated. So we have a chemical engineer and a mechanical engineer, and we just had a baby boy in March of 2019. So everybody jokes that he's a future engineer. So we like to give him lots of engineering things and toys to play with. So we are very enthusiastic about engineering, and so that's why I'm kind of here to talk to you today as well. I did receive my PE license, which is professional engineering's license. It's a licensure in the United States that allows me to stamp drawings that gets built for construction. So I did receive that about 3 or 4 years ago. And I am now not involved in chemical engineering, but I'm more involved in the instrumentation and controls engineering, which we call INC. So it's very similar to what you all are learning with communications. Is we're actually, though, a mixture of chemical, electrical, and mechanical engineers here, because we don't really have a communications degree like you all are lucky to have. So we have a mix of those groups, and what we do day to day is we do instrument specifications, site visit, wiring diagrams, demo drawings. I'm not going to read this whole list, control narrative, network architecture. So we're going out there figuring out where our fiber is going to connect into, if we're going to use Modbus, if we're just going to hardwire. We figure all that out in our group. And specifically, I'm in the oil and gas business. And so as you can see from my little GIF there, it's some days I'm dressed up like this in the office, but when I'm out in the job site, I have to wear all that safety gear. And so I have my hard hat, my fire resistant clothing, and so you wouldn't even probably recognize me out in the job site. But it makes it more exciting because your day-to-day job is always changing, whether you're designing that day or out on the site climbing up a distillation tower. It definitely keeps it fun. And so you have to remember why you're in engineering and keep it fun like that, which we're going to hit on today. So last thing that she mentioned in my bio, there's lots of professional societies out there. I'm so excited that you all are part of IEEE. That's amazing. You're already on the right track to be involved with that. And so there's lots of societies in America that we have for engineers. I've been part of AICHE, which is the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. That's the one I was involved in college and a little bit after. And we have American Society of Mechanical Engineers. IEEE started out as electrical engineers. And so the one you heard talked about for me is because I'm an instrumentation and controls engineer, they used to have a society called Instrument Society of America. And in 2008, they changed their name to International Society of Automation. So that's kind of my society in America, is what is involved with my career path. But the beautiful thing about societies is that you can join multiple, they have multiple opportunities. And so I definitely encourage everybody to always look into tons of professional societies, because I was part of 2 or 3 for a while. And so definitely look into them, learn from them, and we'll talk more about that as well. So I am an executive board member of that, very passionate, been involved in my local section for 8 years since I graduated college. And now I'm on the board for the International Society. So any questions about that can also come at the end. So my disclaimer before diving into the meat of the presentation is that I do love my employer, Burns & McDonnell. I do love my society, ISA, that we just talked about. But this presentation was not reviewed by them. It's my personal viewpoint on how I maintain enthusiasm for engineering. It's not a viewpoint of my company or my society, but those obviously have influenced me, and I will show things that they do that I really appreciate. But this presentation is not branded by them by any means, and it's really just for educational purposes to help give you all my tips and tricks of how I do this. So I know you can't answer this question because you're watching and you can't chime in, but if you can look at any of these pictures and think, wow, that was me, either studying engineering or you're working in engineering now. But I remember facing these photos a lot when I was studying engineering. Definitely wanted to quit. Definitely had doubts about if I was doing the right career. Should I change? Am I not smart enough? All these thoughts crossed my mind, and that's why we're here to talk about this today. So why do we feel this way? Is engineering even hard? And this actually came from an article that I linked at the bottom, and they had a list of the hardest college degrees. And it kind of gives this little intro about it. Some degrees require an intense amount of work, stamina, and determination. Because of the amount of work, lots of these degrees have high dropout rates, meaning people quit. But for those that can make it to cross the finish line, jobs acquired as a result of your degree will make it financially worthwhile, which I think most engineers know, and engineering students know. And so if you could take a guess what was number 1 on this list, you probably would guess correctly, because engineering topped the number 1 as is the hardest college degree. And they give this reasoning. With such a vast and difficult array of subjects on which engineering students are tested on, so physics, statistics, calculus, we all love calculus, this subject has the highest rate of C grades. So the kind of the mediocre grade level there, not A's, not B's, but C's grades, and the lowest rate of A's. So they rarely get A's in engineering. This happens to be this is what makes the engineering dropout rate so high, and it actually lists some colleges as high as 60%. And I specifically remember sitting in my intro to engineering class, filled room of engineers, like all different majors, freshman year, out of school, right out of high school into my first college class. And they said, look to your left and look to your right. And most likely those people will not be sitting next to you when you graduate, because they just knew the dropout rate was so high because people just changed majors, they didn't want to do it anymore, or they lost their passion. So we're here to talk today about how we get that back. So what do we do now? We know it's hard, we know it's challenging. What do? We're going to maintain enthusiasm. And this image kind of summed up enthusiasm really well, again, linked at the bottom. Enthusiasm is an intense and eager enjoyment, interest, or approval. It's putting your whole heart into what you do. It's excitement with inspiration, motivation, and a pitch of creativity. And it refers to the ability to show a keen interest in a subject or an activity, as well as readiness to get involved. So we're going to talk about how we do this. How do we maintain enthusiasm? Because, when you're first coming into college or university or your studies, you might have been super enthusiastic, like, I'm going to be an engineer. This is going to be the best day of my life. I'm going to love it. And then you get hit with your first failed test, or you didn't do very well, and that enthusiasm kind of drops. And so we're going to talk about how to maintain that, because we're all going to face challenges. And I love this quote to kind of start us off, is nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. So that was Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I think that's so true, because you could just be mediocre at engineering, but if you really want to be great and really do well in engineering and love it, then you have to have enthusiasm. So you got to find it somewhere if you don't think you have it yet. So hopefully this presentation will help you. So how do we do that? Here are my steps on what I think it takes to maintain enthusiasm. And they're actually in no particular order. We're going to hit on them in a different order, but this is kind of our agenda, as we're going to be talking about remembering your why, remembering why you want to be an engineer, making goals and focusing what you're going to focus your time on, how to surround yourself by good people and that encourage you, how to give back and keep growing in your career, but ultimately to have fun while you're doing it, so that way you can persevere at the end. So we're going to kind of tie all these together as we go, and you'll see they kind of interlock together. So they overlap, they tie together, and we'll kind of hit on them multiple times throughout the presentation. All right, so we're going to start with remember your why. So think back to when you were starting your college career and being a student in engineering. Why did you want to be an engineer? Why did you want to become an engineer or sign up for engineering to begin with? And if you're already in the engineering field, why did you want to stay an engineer, or why are you an engineer? And so just think of those questions to yourself, and I'm going to give you some top reasons that people say that they're engineers, and maybe one of those is yours. So maybe they love taking things apart and putting them back together. Maybe you really wanted to design and build real solutions to problems. Maybe you wanted just to take the most difficult courses in college. That was your challenge. Also, maybe you just wanted to tell people that you're an engineer. Maybe you wanted to travel the world for work. Engineering is international, as you all know. You've had tons of speakers from all parts of the globe. And so engineering is truly international, and you can travel if you want to, and where you want to travel is up to you. You want to make your parents proud, might be a reason. You think science and math are awesome, which honestly is probably my big thing. You knew about the money, that engineering is a well-paid industry, and that you want to make the world better, and that you love challenges. So maybe one of those is you. I kind of mentioned science and math are awesome, and that was personally how I got into engineering. It's not why I'm staying in engineering, but when I was in high school, I really enjoyed the math courses and the science courses. And I have no engineers in my family. My parents are not engineers, nothing like that. And so I didn't know what engineering was. So I told my teacher that I wanted to be a chemist. And they were like, well, you're really good at math. You should go into chemical engineering and see what it's all about. So I did some research and I ended up signing up and applying for chemical engineering and never changed majors. So that's where I got into engineering, and how I've now stayed changes. So you have to reevaluate this why every time, because it does change over time. So why do we care about remembering our why? That was 4 years ago or 8 years ago, whatever it is. Because when you remember why you got into it in the first place, that helps reignite the fire in you. It helps reignite your passion. It helps excite your enthusiasm. It helps you remember the big picture. Why am I doing this? Because we are going to face those challenges. And so you want to make sure that you're remembering why you started it in the first place. So one of my whys now of why I stay in engineering is I get to design really cool things. You might not think an instrument and controls engineer would design this picture on the screen, but this is a 5-run metering skid. So it's full of instrumentation, Coriolis meters, turbine meters, and it handles a lot of capacity. This is over $2 million TIC, or just for the equipment. And so even more than that. And so this metering skid was literally my responsibility. I did everything from designing to working with the vendors to doing the electrical wiring with electrical, and doing the process engineering checks, the piping, the structure. So I had to work with all the disciplines to make this happen, because in this design world, our client cared about the custody transfer of their product. And so they wanted their instrument engineers to be the ones owning the metering. And so their instrument engineers wanted to work with our instrument engineers. So I got to design this really cool thing that, trust me, made me frustrated and upset many times, because designing things is challenging. But I look back and think, wow, I did that, and I got to design something so cool. And there's tons of examples like that. I also get to go to really neat places. This picture is not taken at one of my job sites. As you might know, refineries and oil and gas plants are typically out in the middle of nowhere sometimes. So I don't really get to go to any fancy places for those kind of job sites, but because I continue to train and get educated and go to conferences, I get to kind of go to these unique resorts and stay to learn. And so I get to go to really cool places being an engineer and go to these engineering conferences constantly. So I think it's really fun to see the world that way, and get to go to cool places. So talked about our why, got number 1 down. Now let's talk about what we do next. We need to make our goals and focus. So when you make goals, you don't want to just think them in your head. You really want to write them down, because goals give you the reminders to that big picture of why, and they just help you celebrate the small successes. So I like this quote: goals are dreams with deadlines. Is you might say, I want to be an engineer. Well, then you become an engineer, and then what? You're going to work 30 years and not have any other goals? So you want to still make career goals and professional goals. And I always like telling people to use the SMART method. You want to make it measurable, specific, achievable, realistic, and timely. You can't just say, like, for example, when I got my professional engineering exam test and passed, I made a goal that I wanted to pass the professional engineering exam test this year, and then I wrote out how I wanted to do that. So here's some other ideas that you might relate to. Maybe you want to get a job before the end of the year. Maybe you're planning to graduate soon. So maybe you need to make a specific SMART goal that you're going to submit 6 job applications each month. Maybe you need to work on improving your resume by attending trainings and certifications like this one. You're attending this training to improve your knowledge. That way you can talk about things in interviews. Maybe you want to make a goal of win scholarship money for school. Well, how are you going to do that? You're going to apply for a scholarship maybe every week for 4 months. Maybe you're going to research some of those professional societies I just listed earlier in their presentation and learn more about their scholarship programs. I'll be honest with you, I review scholarships for ISA and local ones and some professional ones. And you will be surprised how many sometimes people don't even apply. They think they're not qualified. They think, well, I'm not even a member of that program. Most scholarships cannot limit it just to members. It's usually a law that they cannot say you have to be a member to win this. They can give preference, So if you're a member, they might give you an extra point or whatever they're doing for the grading scale, but they cannot limit it to that. So you still have a chance, even if you're not a member. So look up all those professional societies and enter all those scholarships. You're very capable of doing so. Then there's just some more examples there. I'm gonna take a quick drink. All right. So think about it. If you're sitting there across the computer from me, and hopefully you can still hear me, what are your goals? What do you want to do this year? What do you want to do in 5 years? Make 1 year and 5 year goals, short term, long term, because you want to be able to celebrate short term. You don't want to just think 5 years out, because 2025 is a long ways away. It will come fast, promise you, but you want to do short term goals too. And I always tell people, you can't just make goals and then leave them. You have to review them and at least update them annually. Things change. For example, I'm an engineer right now, senior engineer level. Maybe I get transferred to business development because they need help selling some work. So they transfer my role to business development and I become a business development person. My goals to become an associate engineer at my level or a higher level engineer, whatever that title is at your workplace, is no longer applicable if I'm in a different group that has different titles. So I need to continuously update my goals depending on life changes. And that's okay. That's what happens. You're still growing. And so I liked this little picture here. It says, I'm looking for a new position where I can apply my outdated skills. Just like our skills that you want to stay up to date, you want to keep your goals up to date and make sure that you have something as your guideline to remind you what you're trying to achieve, to maintain that enthusiasm, get excited. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to achieve after I do it. It'll make doing all those things worthwhile. So, talked about the why, talked about making goals and focusing. Now we got to keep growing. So just like our goals, and I just said, you have to keep growing to accomplish those goals and changing those goals. So some ideas, it doesn't have to be just career growth and title growth. You can keep growing personally and making yourself more professional and learning more about your industry. And how you can do that is you can attend training, just like this one. Whether it's free or it has a fee, if it's valuable training, it's worth your investment to do that. Take the training, listen to free webinars, learn about a certification that you might interest you or might be valuable in your career. Read, whether it's reading, a textbook or a book or even a fun book. It's just opening your mind and reading the latest news definitely helps you in your career. You want to also, I always put this one in here, take classes for non-engineering things. I think that does improve your growth. It helps your interpersonal skills, getting to know people outside of engineering. I actually took a tap dance class in college. It was an elective, but that way I could get outside my comfort zone, take an introductory course to tap dance. It had nothing to do with engineering, but I had fun and it kind of got me to challenge myself in that way. So definitely do that as an adult too. And whether you're in college or adult life, definitely try to take classes and learn non-engineering things. Listen to podcasts. Those are really popular now. And then watch educational YouTube videos. You can find a YouTube video about anything. I mean, you can search how do pressure gauge work? How do pressure gauge work? I can't talk today. And see how they're built and how they're made. And so you can learn so much without even being in the workplace. You can learn it on YouTube and then bring that to your interviews and talk about what that company does and how they do it. And you would be so above the bar that you would outshine any other application they get. So keep growing in school, outside of your courses, and when you get into your professional life, just keep going. There's no stopping. You're always learning. Here's an example of ways to find free training. Again, look at your professional societies. ISA, this is just a snippet of one. We are offering a free sample module to this computer-based training format for pressure measurement control. Every society has usually free training somewhere. You just have to be able to find it, which using search tools, asking someone, emailing that society, asking where their free webinars are. It doesn't hurt to ask them. So growing with your company, you might say, okay, Ashley, I'm doing all of this work. I'm putting in the time, I'm reading, I'm doing this training. I am putting in my best foot forward, and my company is not doing anything. I'm in the same role. I don't like what I'm doing. I'm not moving up. I don't know what's wrong. And I actually want to tell you something a coworker told me. He said, no one here got a degree in mind reading. And that's true. No one got a degree in mind reading. And so, especially at an engineering firm or at an engineering school, you have to tell people what you want. They might not be able to give it to you right away. You know, hey, I would like you to sponsor me to go to this training course, or hey, I would like to get a promotion in the next 2 years. What can I do to get that? Or I would like a raise. I think I haven't got a raise in 5 years. You have to ask. And, you know, sometimes we're ashamed to ask the question, but then we just quit our job because we don't like it. We feel like they're not doing anything for us, but our managers didn't even know we wanted that. And so maybe you want to be promoted and take on more responsibility, but your manager doesn't think you do. And so they're just guessing, but they're not mind readers. So you have to ask. So I love this quote. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. So as long as you ask in a professional way that doesn't sound demanding, you're not demanding more money, you're not demanding a promotion, you're simply telling your manager, hey, I'm really wanting to get promoted. What can I do to get that? I'm very interested. Hey, I'm very interested in getting a raise because I need more money for my family. What are things I can do to achieve that next year? Help them understand what you want and why you want it and what you can do about it. And ask the question. I learned this early on in my career. That I needed to ask if I wanted to go to specific training, because you know some training when you're right out of school is really expensive. It could be hundreds and thousands of US dollars, and so you have to ask for your company to support you in that. And being a chemical engineer, going into instrumentation and controls, I knew nothing about control systems and process control. So I looked into a certificate program offered by a different university nearby. And I had heard about some other coworkers that took it, and I saw the price tag, and it was almost $1,000 US. I'm like, I can't pay for that. I just got out of school. I have debt. That's not going to work. So I just asked the question. I asked my manager if this would be a good opportunity for me to take these courses, in my own time, but if they would pay for it. And the answer was yes. I did get to take it. And it helped jumpstart my career because I got all this training right off the bat, right out of school, rather than just trying to learn it on the job. And so you have to ask the question. I've also got to attend many conferences. My first year, I got to go to a process safety conference with AICAG, the Chemical American Society. And so that's me posing with a picture 1 year out of school, kind of a scary picture. And some of these are more recent conferences where you see our badges and everything, that we're learning leadership skills, we're learning new technologies. Actually presented at one of the conferences. Once you ask and let your manager know you're interested and you're willing to put in the work, they're more than likely to want to encourage you and help promote you and grow within your company. So ask the question, keep growing in your personal life and your professional life. All right. So hopefully I haven't lost any of you all. I'm going to do a time check. Okay, we're good. All right. So remember your why, make goals, keep growing. And next, we're going to talk about surrounding ourselves. When I had a baby, everybody kept saying, it takes a village to raise a child. I didn't really know what that meant. I kind of understood a little bit of it, that you can't do it alone. You need family, you need friends, you need baby showers and lots of things to help you and help your child grow. You need teachers, you need, childcare providers. You need lots of people involved to raise a child. It's not a one person show. It takes a lot of people. And I think that that is true for engineering. I think you need to surround yourself with good people that can encourage you and can lift you up when you face those challenges, and just throughout, to really just guide you through engineering and to help you enjoy it and maintain that enthusiasm. Because if you're doing it by yourself, it's gonna get old pretty fast. So you want to definitely do that and start early. So start with your classmates. You guys are all part of this great organization and great group with IEEE in your local section and doing all these amazing webinars. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with those people. It doesn't have to be physically. I know with COVID-19, it's can't meet in person, but still support each other virtually. Make sure you're asking how they're doing. Make sure you're supporting them through their courses. I know you can't maybe study as a group anymore in person, but have Zoom calls and do a study group. And that way you can learn from each other. You can teach them what you know, and you can learn what you don't know from them. And then you want to carry that to your family and friends. I remember calling my mom plenty of times in college, being like, why did I sign up for this engineering? I'm not even good at it. I was smart in high school and now I'm not smart. And so you want your family and friends to be able to support you. You want them to be able to say, no, you can do it. You are capable. You love this. It's just a short-term challenge. You'll get out of it. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And so just surround yourself by great people like that. And then, big tip for students. So if you're a student, listen to this. If you have totally, ignored everything else I've ever said or said prior to this, listen to this. When looking for a workplace, so when you're applying to companies, try to look at the culture. So if you go in for an interview and you get to talk to people that work there, try to see how they act with each other. Do they seem like they care for one another? Do they seem like they're just working in their cubicle by themselves and not talking to anybody else? Does it seem like it's kind of like you're walking on pins and needles, is the saying, where you just feel like you might like make too much noise if you're asking a question, or you might scare someone or hurt someone's feelings? You don't want to work for a company like that. You want to work for someone that you can go there not knowing anything because you just got out of school, that you feel supported by your coworkers, that those coworkers are going to mentor you just like your teachers mentor you. You want coworkers that mentor you, help you learn, help guide you, and you want to try to find that in your interview and do your research online. A lot of people will have reviews online, and yes, you have to take those with a grain of salt, which means trust what you can, ignore what you don't think is true. But you want to make sure that you're seeing what people say about that employer. Are they saying good things? Are they a good company to work for? Ask people that have maybe worked there. Look on LinkedIn, see if you can find someone you can message. Find somewhere that has good employee culture, so that way you can lift each other up and it's not just they call it a dog eat dog world, where you're just trying to eat the other person so you can climb the ranks faster. And you don't want to do that. You want to find somewhere that's going to lift you up and really help you grow. So surround yourself by good people. So this is honestly my biggest tip, is surrounding yourself by good people. It's my favorite tip because I think this is the number one reason that I'm still in engineering, and why I love engineering is because of the people that I get to work with and that I get to meet doing my jobs. So surround yourself by good people. So start studying with a group, as we talked about. Even professionals study as a group. This shows a professional engineering study group. They have it for 11 weeks. So we still study as a group as professionals. We encourage one another. Let me take a drink here. This is actually a picture of my cubicle that got decorated after I hit my 5-year work anniversary. So this was a cubicle that was done by my coworkers that wanted to encourage me. So just keep swimming through another 5 years, it says. So how does that not maintain your enthusiasm and get you excited to be at work and have people that do that for you? And ultimately, it's just making sure you're doing more with your coworkers and your classmates than just working together. Go on a trip together. Go do a painting class together. Go roller skating together. Go eat pizza together. All these pictures are things that I have done with coworkers or with classmates. And it truly helps grow those relationships, grows that support system, and just keeps me motivated to keep working with these amazing people. And we're all creating amazing solutions to world problems. So super encouraging. Engineering is awesome, but you need people behind you supporting you. It is a team sport, engineering is. So talked about why, talked about goals, talked about surrounding yourself. Now we need to talk about giving back. So this is a lot of words on a slide, ultimately to say giving back is good for the people you're giving back to, but it's also good for you. And there's tons of science experiments and facts out there that tell you that giving back releases oxytocin, which is the happy drug, the happy chemical in your body, and it ultimately will help you maintain that enthusiasm in engineering. So lots of facts out there. This is actually from a United Health group that they did a study on giving back. And the big ones I want to point out is that it lowers your stress level. At 79% of people that volunteered in the past 12 months lowered their stress level. They feel 88% improved self-esteem, and 93% noted an improvement in mood. So if you don't think improving your mood, lowering your stress, and getting higher self-esteem won't help you maintain your enthusiasm, I don't know what will, but those sound like great statistics to volunteer your time, give back. And I have some ideas on how to do that, because you want to still do that with your professional groups and your company, because that helps you maintain enthusiasm for engineering, because you're still getting involved with people outside of the workplace, but giving back together. So you actually can see these top two pictures are with Burns & Mac, which is my company, with Burns & Mac people that we had opportunities to volunteer together. So we all got together and did things, painted, organized food at a food pantry, and more. Sorry, that's not a COVID cough. That is a talking too much cough. All right. So sorry about that. So ideas on giving back to help you. So how do we give back in professional society and at work? Well, here are some ideas. You can volunteer your time with your society. You can tutor and help others with math. So being students, I'm sure there's younger students that are taking hard math classes that you've taken already. Help them with that. You could donate money to a technical school. As a student, it's a little harder to do that, but you're already giving money to that school. Or when you're a professional, you can give back to the school you went to. You could be a judge at a science fair. Lots of high schools and middle schools have science competitions and math competitions. Be a judge. They are always looking for volunteers to be judges around here. So definitely look into that. Help someone move. Moving is terrible. And I always tell people, if you're willing to help someone move, you're their best friend for life, because I have moved more friends from house to house or apartment to apartment, from college dorms. I am wore out, but moving gives that feeling of giving back and making yourself proud and helping get that happy drug. And it helps your friends out. So it's a win-win. And then mentor and intern. So once you're a new hire and you're in the workplace, you get interns that come in, making sure you're making them feel welcome, being that surrounding support system. So that helps you give back and kind of circles back around to building their village. So some facts on the right: 94% of volunteers report an enriched sense of purpose after they volunteer. And 85% of volunteers have developed friendships through volunteering. So again, surrounding yourself with great people, helping you maintain enthusiasm for engineering. Employers have also caught on to this, that giving back makes people feel good. So a lot of employers have started doing programs such as Burns & Mac, doing programs that get their employees together to volunteer together and help give donations together as a group. They've noticed that employees feel more engaged with their employer when they do this. They feel happier and healthier. They develop more professional skills. And then the really cool fact on the right is almost 3/4 of employees who volunteer through their work report feeling better about their employer. So they gain that enthusiasm of why I work here. This place is awesome. They're doing all these great things for the community. It just helps maintain that enthusiasm. So definitely give back in school and in your professional life. Here's just a screenshot of our Burns & Mac Foundation. I literally can go to this, find what we're trying to get involved in, how to donate my time, and professional societies do this too. So you can look up your professional society, see if the local section's doing anything, and get involved there. All right, so we talked about why, our goals, growth, surrounding ourselves, and giving back. So now we're to let's have some fun. Hopefully we've been having fun this whole time. So these are just some pictures, but really to enjoy staying enthusiastic about engineering, you have to find fun things to do every day. It's not just an event. You have to find a way to laugh at yourself during the good or the bad. So if you're doing a calculation, in your studies and you really messed up and you just spent hours on it. I always tell people you have to laugh to keep from crying. So you find you made a simple mistake at the very beginning and it just messed up all your work and you got to start all over. You have to find a reason to laugh about that. You have to find a reason to have fun. You have to think of something to do to really enjoy it, because otherwise you're not going to maintain that enthusiasm. You're probably going to throw your book at the wall. You definitely want to have fun. So laughing at yourself, laughing with coworkers, laughing with your classmates, enjoying yourself, enjoying what you're doing. You have to find where the fun is there. So here's just some pictures. My name is not Amy Weckworth. This was a joke because so many people call me Amy. We don't know why, maybe the A, maybe the Y at the end, but I get called Amy all the time, even in emails that I send. So my ISA friends, my society friends, they made me this plaque after I became a professional engineer with this PE at the end. But they put Amy on it as a joke first. They gave me the real one afterwards, but they put Amy just to laugh. This is me taking a crazy-eyed selfie out in the field, and you can see there's snow on my shoulder. It was snowing and I was doing an analyzer startup. So I had to take a picture because I was out in the freezing cold and I was pregnant at the time, very pregnant. And so I was this big pregnant lady out in the field in the snow, waiting for an analyzer startup. So instead of getting discouraged, I decided, why don't I just take this funny selfie to remind me of this and just laugh about it? And so that's how I had the fun there. And then just having fun with your coworkers. We go to places like Top Golf, which is kind of like golfing. We go out to dinner. And then during COVID, like I said, you still have to have virtual fun. Having a big webinar, this is my department, that we just got together at an evening and just talked to each other, just about not work related, and learned a little bit about each other. So get involved in the fun things. Long story short, find the fun things. Lots of student organizations such as yours and employers offer fun things to do, whether it's sport intramurals, whether it's doing women's groups, whether it's having a treasure hunt online, a virtual treasure hunt. All these examples are on the screen, and this is what Burns and Mac has done just recently, just to get people engaged. There's lots of ideas out there. That's why when you surround yourself with good people, they can help you think of these cool ideas or tell you what they've already done in their company, and that way you can still have fun in your company. So definitely helps maintaining enthusiasm is having those fun times and making sure that you're enjoying them even during the challenges. So last but not least, we figured out how to maintain enthusiasm, but how do we persevere? Engineering is still hard. So even the most enthusiastic, like you might be saying, wow, Ashley, you're enthusiastic, or maybe you're thinking I'm super boring. I don't know. But I think I'm enthusiastic. But even myself, I still have days where I feel like this. I still have days that I'm like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just do something easier? Why am I putting stress on myself? Why do I have these deadlines? You know, why? And you still have challenges. We're still facing design problems. We're still, we still try to cut costs. We still try to do great quality. There's challenges in engineering. So we have to persevere, to not give up, to go the distance, to stop at nothing. So we're going to get through it. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep our commitment. We're going to keep our hard work and our patience, and remember why, and remember our purpose. You see a lot of these words that we've talked about in this image. We're going to goal set. We're going to think about why we're doing this. We're going to surround ourselves with good people. So anytime you face these challenging times, you're going to do everything we just talked about. Review your why, make your goals, focus, all of it. You're going to do this. Give back. Even though you think you have no time, give back during those challenging times. It will make you feel better. Have fun. Enjoy it. Promise, it'll make it so much better if you just remember to laugh. So you can do this. As students in engineering, you're already amazing. You're already so smart, even when you don't think you're being smart at the time. I had a professor tell me he wasn't sure I was going to pass. I passed. You can do it. There's going to be challenges in your workplace. It doesn't get easier after graduation. It's just less homework, but you're still going to face this, and you're still going to have to remember to do all these things to maintain your enthusiasm. So thank you for attending and listening to my talk today. I hope you gained something out of it. I really appreciated the opportunity. And so I am going to open it up to our host and ask if there's any questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sure we all related to you when you told us so many things. And thank you for making it very fun and interesting. I'm sure I related to many of the slides. And yeah, during this pandemic, we don't know what to do. And thank you for giving us a little insight on everything. So, yes, ma'am, we have a few questions.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so the first one is, how do we still maintain the same enthusiasm during this time, which is the pandemic?
That is a great question. And that is a challenge a lot of us are facing, right? So I would say now more than ever, first you have to seek out opportunities online more. So for example, I would not tend to read a lot of my emails. That I have tons of emails from professional societies that I just don't read. You get so many emails in a day, you don't read all of them verbatim. But I literally just found they're having a deep waters conference and it was free if you signed up before September 4th. But then it costs money afterwards. And it's a full day conference that's free. So there's, because of the pandemic, more organizations like IEEE, ISA, the big umbrella headquarters, they're having to readjust what they're doing too. And they're offering more free training than they ever have. Usually I have to pay a lot of money to go to Houston, Texas or somewhere, stay at a hotel and pay for the training. And now they're doing it for free because it's a webinar platform. And so you have to find opportunities to maintain that enthusiasm. You have to set aside time to talk to one another. So that's the big one I would say too. It's just like that WebEx you saw with my coworkers. It takes planning, just like planning one of these. You guys put in a lot of effort to plan these. You have to put something on the calendar that says, hey, we're all going to get together once a week for 30 minutes, even though we are all busy, and we're going to enjoy our dinner in front of the computer and just chit chat and say one interesting fact about each other. So that way you're still engaging with people online and learning online. But yes, you have to find those opportunities, you have to plan. And then I would ultimately say, keep remembering that the pandemic will end. We will get out of it. We don't know when. It seems like it's always getting worse. Seems like it's never getting better. But I will say it's, again, a short-term challenge. If we have COVID-19 in 5 years, I'm going to say, scientists, what are you doing? Do engineers need to take over? So I think the pandemic is short-term. And so we'll get out of it. Just keep that in mind. Keep engaging with your support system. Keep talking to one another and just keep your head high, and you will get out of it, and you'll be the awesome class that had to go to school during COVID-19 and persevered. So that's my advice there.
Thank you, ma'am, for that hope.
Yes.
So, yeah, our next question is how to maintain calm and composure in our workplace.
So how to remain calm and composure, like when you're facing a challenge or some aggressive people?
Yes, ma'am, in a workplace.
Yes. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Marvel movies and the Hulk character, the Green Hulk character, but it's a joke around here that Ashley is very nice to people, but don't turn her green, because if you turn me green, that means I'm turning into my Hulk and I'm not going to be calm and composured anymore. So my advice would be, though, I actually have a sign hanging on my desk that says this, and I wish I would have brought it so I could show you. It's actually out in the cubicle area, but sign that basically says, don't be reactive. If you are reactive to something someone says to you every time, they're basically controlling you. So if a project manager is saying, Ashley, you're not doing your job, you need to go faster, you need to do this or that, whatever it is. If I'm reactive and I snap back and I say, well, you should have told me 2 weeks ago and you should have done this, and we're getting into an argument and I can't keep my calm and composure, I'm letting him control me. I'm letting him decide that I am a reactive person and all this. And that's not true. that, if they're poor planning, turn into an emergency on my part, that shouldn't be a reason for me to get upset. They're now making me upset when I shouldn't be, and I shouldn't have to deal with that. So my advice would be, and I face this in the workplace pretty often, well, not very often. When I first started, it was more often because you're still learning how to be professional. And so my advice would be step back from the situation. So if a manager came up to me and was telling me all this thing, you just simply say, I understand. I'm working as fast as I can. I'll talk to my manager to see if I can get some help. And just step back, calm yourself down. And then if you need to go talk to your manager to say what's happening, hey, they didn't tell me these deadlines until 2 days before or whatever, and now they're saying I'm too slow, can I have some assistance? Or just so you're aware, your manager can go talk to them or their manager if it needed. And this has happened to me too, where someone was telling me something I disagreed with and it wasn't my job. And I talked to my manager afterwards. He says, next time, just step back and say, I disagree, but let's go talk to my manager and see if we can get to an agreement and an understanding. And so you don't have to agree with them. If they're in your face and you're facing some challenges, you can stay calm and just say, let's take this offline and talk to my manager. And I just need someone else to be here to let me know how I proceed. And so that's with dealing with people. Keep calm and collected when you're dealing with challenges at work, like design challenges. That's when you need to ask for help. So if I'm getting to a point where I'm too stressed, I usually try to ask my friends that are my coworkers, hey, can you look at this for me? I am struggling to get past this point. I can't figure out how I'm supposed to wire these together. I'm struggling understanding this motor schematic. Can you assist me? And they will take the time to assist you. And that helps me stay calm and not overwhelmed. So those would be my two advice, is just either step away if it's a personal thing or ask for help.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. We have one more question. How do we set long-term and short-term goals?
How do you set them?
Yes.
So I would say, how do you set them? So what I typically do is I actually have a template, so I can send this if you like. I do 3 short-term, 3 long-term. So long-term, I would say takes more than a year or 2. Year or 2 takes longer than 2 years. It's a long-term goal. Short-term can be this year or next. Especially with the pandemic, it might take people 2 years because things take a little longer during a pandemic. But how I would go about it is, first, look at what people around you are doing and if any of those interest you first. So get ideas from others. So for example, that KU class that I took, the University of Kansas certificate course, I didn't know about it, but I had one coworker that had taken it in the last 3 years. He had a certificate on his cubicle, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I asked questions and they told me, so then I could research. I'm like, well, they took it. I'm going to make that goal. That would be a good short-term goal for me to take it this year. I'll give you another example. I'm thinking about getting my master's in business administration, MBA. I'm thinking about getting my MBA, and I've talked to my manager. I've gotten approval if I want to go forward with it, but it's a lot of time for a new mom to do it. But one of my goals in the next 5 years is to start an MBA program. I'm not going to start it immediately. I have a toddler, but I might want to take that. So just thinking of where you want to be in your career or your education, and how you're going to get there kind of defines your goals. So I want to be a manager one day. I want to be an engineering manager one day. So what do I need to do now to be that one day in 10 years? Those are how you define your goals. So as you all as students, maybe your goal is, I really want to get the top grade in this class. Maybe that's your goal. I want to get the top grade. What are you going to do to get that top grade? Are you going to prioritize that class over the other classes? Are you going to make sure you do all that homework first? Are you going to make sure you do all the reading material before any of the others? Are you going to create a study group and be in charge of that? So that way you can help teach someone what you just learned to help you say it again and learn it. So you want to think where you want to be in 5 to 10 years, and then how you're going to make short-term goals to hit that. And that way you don't get 10 years down the line and say, why am I not a manager? I should be a manager. And it's because I didn't do all these little short-term goals before that. So definitely think of where you want to be in the future and make your short-term goals. I hope that helps, if that answers the question.
Yes, ma'am. Perfect. We have one last question, ma'am.
Okay.
So how do we still maintain the enthusiasm if we are get scoring less in our subjects or not completing the targets on time?
Did someone look at my grade card? So I will be completely honest with you. My college grades were the top my first year, and they slowly dropped. So that's why I tell people, don't get bad grades when you start engineering school, because they're going to go lower as the subjects get harder. So that's very typical of people. Some people end up doing better, but most engineers that I talk to, their scores get lower as they go through. So I would say maintain enthusiasm like this, and this is what I tell people: is your grades are good. They're very beneficial. But just like me now, if I wanted to leave Burns and Mac and go to another employer, they will not ask for my grades. They do not care about my grades anymore. At least in the United States, once you're out of school for 3 to 5 years, your grades no longer matter. It's just your work, whatever you do in your workplace and what you've learned there. They don't care about if you were a perfect score student or not. So yes, your grades are important, and you should work hard in school, and you should learn as much as you can. But I'm telling you, as a person that did not score great my senior year, I was told I was not going to pass because I failed my first test, and the test was worth so much percent of your grade. I was told I wasn't going to pass. I'm crying, like, how am I not going to pass? I'm a senior. I already got this great job from Burns and Mac. Burns and Mac signed me on a year before I graduated. And I'm like, I'm going to have to tell them I can't work for them. I was upset. You have to figure out which classes you need to focus more of your time on. So even though I'm better at certain classes, like I was really good at math, right? I'm really good at the math stuff, all that, but the specific, like, physics, I wasn't as good at, or, an engineering course specifically. And so I had to think, okay, I would rather get a B, or the second score, whatever you use, in those math classes, and focus more time on the hard classes to help me not fail. Because you saw that, I don't know if you saw that meme on the slide, but they have a saying that you just have to pass. Is you don't have to have the perfect scores every time. You don't have to be the best. So keep encouraging yourself to just pass. Do better if you can, but don't let one class fail because you were trying to get the top score in the other class. You got to make them all equal to get your degree. And so definitely work hard, schedule your time. Don't be a procrastinator like myself. You want to make sure you're planning your days out. You want to make sure you're asking for help early, not asking the day before a test. Ask questions early. The teachers are always there to help. Your professors are there to help you and to answer your questions and to help give you guidance on what you need to know. So reach out and ask for help. That's your, surrounding yourself. And then just know, I will be honest, I was not a perfect score student. I mentioned that. I had a job before I graduated college. Yes, it wasn't during a pandemic, but I know people that have perfect grades in college. One of them is my coworker, could not get a job here. They did not give him a job here. He's now my coworker because he had a neighbor that worked here. And so he got in through his neighbor. But he's like, Ashley, I got perfect scores, all A's, 4.0 college student, which is what we use here at grading system. And he could not get an interview. Every employer does not look for perfect scores. You have to be good. You don't have to be great in education because they want to see that you're involved. If you're doing these IEEE things and you're volunteering your time and you're working on the engineering floor and you learn communication skills and you learned organization, that's what they care about too. So be good at school. You don't have to be perfect, but make sure you're getting good at volunteering and speaking and communicating. And those will help you get a job. So stay encouraged that grades aren't everything, even though they are in school. They do go away. I don't have to worry about my transcript anymore. You can do it. I promise.
Thank you,
Any
ma'am. Thank you for answering all of them so sportively.
Good.
So thank you for such informative and enthusiastic session. So I guess that's it. I guess we can end the question and answer round now. Uh, Now it's time to express my gratitude to all on behalf of EC Department, St. Joseph Institute of Technology, St. Joseph's Group of Institutions. First and foremost, I thank our guest speaker, Ashley Beckworth, for giving us some useful tips on maintaining enthusiasm in engineering, which is the need of time. So thank you, ma'am, for finding time and giving us this information on how we should maintain the enthusiasm for engineering even at this time. So, my heartfelt thanks to our beloved chairman, Sir Dr. B. Babu Manoharan, for his consistent upkeep in conduction of this series. My sincere thanks to our managing director, ma'am, Mrs. B. Jessipriya, and our director, Sir, Mr. B. Sashi Sekhar, for his guidance and conduction of this series. So, I would like to express my gratitude to our principal, Sir Dr. P. Ravichandran, for his support to conduct the series. I also thank our head of the department, IEEE chapter advisor, Dr. C. Gnana Kausalya ma'am, staff and student affairs, and Dr. G. Rohini ma'am, IEEE coordinator, head of lab affairs, for their words of encouragement and guidance. Also, I take this opportunity to thank all the St. Joseph Institute of Technology staff members who have made this event a success. Finally, I thank all the students, faculties, research scholars from India and other countries for their active participation in this webinar. So our next webinar series, which is the Day 3 Youth International Series Talk, is by an eminent speaker, Ms. Diana, who will be giving us an insight on gender equality in technology and engineering harnessing opportunities as women, which is on 10 September at 6 p.m. So the interested participants can register in the same link and attend the session. So thank you all. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, for your treasure time and inspiring speech. I hope that the participants they got more, they will be more enthusiastic towards the engineering. Thank you for your tips.